the left got very angry, and these school boards and local government officials got very angry when all these parents, frankly, saw what Judicial Watch was able to do through FOIA, and they said, you know, we'll use FOIA to figure out what our schools are up to. And another major issue is the assault on America under the guise of COVID restrictions by local, you know, everyone's been talking about how Dr. Fauci is resigning, I think in large measure thanks to Judicial Watch's litigation and disclosures detailing his dishonesty about the Wuhan lab, his funding of the Wuhan lab's gain-of-function research, the mendacity related to that by him and his colleagues and the agencies generally he was responsible for, and plus lawsuits about his finances and other things he was up to at NIH. It's no surprise to me he's retiring. But Fauci, I know, is blamed by many for a lot of these shutdowns, and he deserves significant blame. But in the end, legally, it was the local governments, state governments that were responsible for the shutdowns that have done so much damage. As I call them, a public health experiment without precedent in world history, let alone American history. And of course, all these schools faced restrictions and COVID restrictions and such. And parents got fed up and they wanted to know what was going on. They wanted their kids back in school. It was the worst of all worlds. You had the internet schooling and being at home and deprived of effective education. There was a disaster for children, the shutdown of schools, and parents saw it firsthand and grew increasingly concerned as it just went on and on and on, despite the lack of science supporting the massive shutdowns of schools. So I could go on and on about why the COVID lockdowns and all these COVID policies were just kind of just made up as they went along. They came up with the science after the fact. But parents got active. And one of the ways they got active, they saw that their kids were being taught, and they wanted to know details about the critical race theory and the transgender extremist agenda and other activities that the schools were teaching without concern for parental views on this. So you saw this new political activism at the school board level. And tied into that was the concern about the shutdown of schools of COVID. And the left got very angry, and these school boards and local government officials got very angry when all these parents, frankly, saw what Judicial Watch was able to do through FOIA, and they said, you know, we'll use FOIA to figure out what our schools are up to. And then, of course, the left got angry. Oh, you're weaponizing FOIA. You're weaponizing your First Amendment rights to petition your government. That's the way the left considers. That's how much disdain they have for your rights as a citizen. And sure enough, in Bucks County, there was a leader, a parental leader, Megan Brock, who had been adamant that there was something up with the way the school shutdowns had been handled in her jurisdiction in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And so she was requesting documents. Tell me what was going on here under law. And you know what Bucks County did? They sued her. They sued her for asking questions. She sought these records under FOIA. Her FOIA request was allowed to go forward. And so Bucks County sued this parent for asking the questions in court. And Judicial Watch is proud to announce that we are providing her legal representation. She's being sued by Bucks County, Pennsylvania, to prevent the release of documents she requested under the Commonwealth's right to know law that are related to COVID restrictions and the reopening of the county schools. Bucks County filed multiple lawsuits against Brock to prevent the release of documents after the Pennsylvania Office of Open Records found in Brock's favor and ordered Bucks County to search for and release the documents in 2 right-to-know requests she had pursued. She had sent a February request back in 2022, back in February of this year, asking for all electronic correspondence by the Director of Policy and Communications at Bucks County with the board vice chair and the board chair and the former director of the Commissioner's Office of Public Information and the chief clerk and the health department director, basically the leadership of Bucks County, about the school guidance related to COVID. And then she sent another request on this school guidance. So she wanted details about the complete school guidance document. And for daring to ask those questions, she was sued. So last month, we filed an answer to Bucks County's lawsuits against Brock. So we're honored to represent her. And, you know, our client, Megan Brock, and other parents won't be intimidated by Bucks County government's abuse of the lawsuit process in order to thwart basic information requests. And as I say in the release, our client, Megan Brock, and other parents won't be intimidated by Bucks County government's abusive lawsuits designed to thwart basic information requests about what they're up to. And we're honored to represent a concerned parent being punished through lawfare for daring to demand accountability from her local government. Now, National Review had a story on what Megan Brock was up to. She and another parent, Jamie Walker, led the fight to reopen the county schools during the pandemic. And then they didn't want the schools to be closed again. And they wanted, once the schools to be open, to actually be teaching in a normal fashion as opposed to having all these crazy COVID rules that, in my view, were vindictive and abusive. So they suspected, and this is kind of the basis, it looks like, for some of the FOIA requests, that county officials and 2 Democratic commissioners had a hand in updating the county's guidance on COVID and the schools and possibly overruling their own health director, a strong advocate for in-person learning. So there was like a, you know, what was going on? Was one government official saying, we got to open these schools, and were the leftists in the government saying, no, you got to keep them closed? They believe Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf's administration also coerced the county into adopting its more restrictive COVID policies and its one-size-fits-all approach to school reopening. So this is just great, you know, because this mom, this activist, this citizen is doing the right thing. This is what we want all citizens to do, isn't it? And I'm not saying all citizens have to do it, but the idea that a citizen that uses the law to figure out what their local government is up to gets punished with a lawsuit is just outrageous. And if there's anything we can do to help someone like that, and we've got the capacity and all things come together, we're going to help. And we're honored to help Megan Brock here. And I hope it affirms anyone else who's listening that they have a right to know about what their government's up to at the local, state, and federal levels. And all of these FOIA laws, all these transparency laws I'm talking about, you can use personally to try to figure out what the government's up to. Now, the downside is, in the case of her, she got sued. The government can come in and sue a requester in order to protect themselves from having to release documents. But generally speaking, you can ask for documents and you can get them sometimes, especially at the local level. So I encourage you to research your local FOIA laws. Go to the agency you're interested in, see what their right-to-know procedures and policies are, and follow them and ask questions about things that you're interested in. You have a right to do that, and we encourage you to do that. Because you can bet the politicians aren't going to do much in the way of oversight. You can bet the media isn't going to do much in the way of oversight. It's up to you to be vigilant. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.